Welcome to Meet My Mutual with Sarah and Ava. Pour some wine, light a joint, or don't, and meet my mutual. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We just finished a great chat with our first guest, SpaceLordNova. But before we get into that, we definitely need to introduce ourselves. This is Sarah Tahami.
Hi, it's me.
And I'm Ava Pauchik, and this is Meet My Mutual.
Welcome. Hello. First time listener, first episode. We live.
I guess for the first episode, we should definitely just go over what this is and why we started it and who we are. So Sarah and I met in college. We both went to Northeastern University in Boston, but we weren't friends until sophomore year, though we met freshman year.
Yep.
What's your memory of us meeting?
Well, we knew who we were before we actually became friends, but I had seen you around, in class and stuff. But then I know we connected online somehow. I think you have a better memory of this than I do, but we connected online, and then
I sent Sarah a Facebook message and I slid into her DMs and I basically begged her to be my friend because I had
did
no
not
friends.
beg. I also had no friends. We were friendless.
Friendless.
Dark times.
Yes.
Anyways, so we hung out. We went to Qdoba, which is this Mexican chain, and then we just kept connecting, and I felt like we were texting for a while and we just kept hanging out, and then we basically both needed a roommate, so we lived together.
Yeah. And Sarah and I were both communication majors, though separate career paths. I work in fashion casting and the fashion world in New York City, and you're doing branding and marketing in Vermont.
Yes.
So
our school was different because it allowed us to do internships throughout college, so we kind of had overlap in that, but here we are now.
Exactly.
Doing slightly different things, but there's overlap in what we do too. Which is why we came together and decided to do this type of podcast.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our people are the same people that we know and experiences. So
yeah, and we were talking about just being proactive and finding friends, and that's sort of how I was online, and I found all these mutuals that I thought were so cool and creative, and I was trying to think of a project, and I thought, well, how about a podcast in which I introduce the people that I think are cool and connect other people to each other.
Right.
And that's how this came about, essentially.
Yeah. So our guests kind of, I think, will vary with the bulk of them being from either of our industries, whether it's modeling or branding or artists, whatever. But we want to just find creators from all around the internet and just talk about their experience in their industry, their experience online and growing social media, and then any, just their journey. There's so many cool people out there that we know whose stories need to be told and heard, and this is just a way for it to all kind of come together in one space.
Absolutely. So we're very excited for you guys to hear our first episode, our first interview with SpaceLordNova. They are 22, Queens native, Bangladeshi, queer, model, actress, activist, you name it. They do it all. So without further ado, meet Nova. Nova!
Hello!
Good morning.
Hey!
Guys, how are you?
We're great. Happy Monday.
Woo woo, first guest.
Yeah. I feel like we should first start out with how you and I met, essentially. So we met through Galore Girl, which was it was essentially like this thing from Galore magazine that united girls together, and they kind of had us work for them and collect content, but they gave us free stuff. So
yeah, you got a lot of makeup samples.
Yeah, I didn't really do much besides go to that one party.
Mm-hmm.
So Nova, were you what was your following then, or how did you grow on social since that time? Were you kind of big at that moment, or has it been more recent that you've seen an influx in your social media growth? Like, can you tell us about how that got started?
Like I remember I was on Instagram when it first came out, and I would just use it as like an outlet to be silly and
Mhm.
nothing more. Like social media was more for me making friends and more for me um connecting to people, because I had a very strict South Asian family. So I was meant to be home right after school. I wasn't allowed to hang out. And this was like my only way of talking to people. But even then, like I wasn't even supposed to be like online or anything.
Mhm.
But I was, because I'm a bad kid.
Yes.
But yeah, it was more for me to like make friends and talk to people, because I never really had that. So I think my online presence, like from when it first started, has always been that, just like me being able to be someone that I couldn't be at home, and
Mhm.
being able to just like connect with people and like make friends. And I think I always like attracted the type of crowd that cared about the same things as me. But for me, it was just really important for me to find like the right people. And I think what you put out there gets like
Right.
thrown back at you, especially with these algorithms and all
And
that.
those are the followers that stay, are like the
Yeah,
organically grown ones, not just like for like, follow for follow. Like those aren't real connections. Like that's
right.
not going to help you grow as a creator or anything like that. So good for you, first of all. And it's so interesting that you talk about going online to be your authentic self, whereas now everyone's like, well, online's not real. Like that's not the
Mm-hmm.
real life. Or well, for some people it is. They don't get to be their real person in real life.
Exactly. Which is a whole other like weird dichotomy.
Hmm.
I feel like it's like a privilege to be able to put a fake version of yourself sometimes online, because like especially being queer, you don't really like in real life, it's not as fun to be queer. It's more fun to be queer online, because you have your community. It feels safer, and I don't know, it's like it's really interesting.
Hmm.
I've never once like wanted to put up a front, and even when I've had like moments where I had to think about my brand and stuff, that just didn't sit right with me personally. I don't
Hmm.
really care if like someone like an influencer does that, but it's just like, yeah, I think I just always had to be myself to feel comfortable online.
I love that. So speaking about like your brand and choosing what to post, you have a beautiful and talented girlfriend, photographer girlfriend named Esther. Could you talk a little bit about how you guys met and how do you choose what to share online? Because I imagine being in a same-sex interracial relationship has its own challenges in the real world. I can't imagine online.
Yeah, so I followed Esther's photography page like a year prior to us meeting. She has had a crush on me since then, but I never really like I just followed her for photography, and then like that was it. And yeah, a year later, she and her friends had put together a documentary theater piece called Shurum. Shurum was about a whole bunch of like issues pertaining to the South Asian family, and they talk about queerness, arranged marriage, substance abuse, and depression. And these were things that were like very like we don't talk a lot about in our communities. So it was a really cool opportunity, and she was looking for a actor that could play one of the characters, Priya, who is a teenager dealing with their queerness and trying to juggle um, being their authentic self and navigating queerness, while also holding this like secret very like near and dear to their heart, from their family, because they know how it'll look. So it was such a cool role, and like thankfully I got the part. The whole summer was just so like important to me, because I felt like while I was playing this character and like understanding what the character was going through, I myself was going through this kind of transformation in myself and my own like journey discovering like my queerness. And most of the cast was POC and queer as well, so I felt very like safe. And
It's beautiful.
yeah, thank you. I got to explore my authentic self, and that's when I was able to figure out that I was gender fluid.
Oh,
But
that's amazing.
Right. So you, just for our listeners, you identify as non-binary, correct? Non-binary, and bisexual.
yes.
Yes.
So
And biodegradable.
Yeah, we love your Nova's Instagram bio is, you say it. I don't want to fuck it up.
bisexual and biodegradable.
Yes.
I love
Brand
that so
that
much.
shit.
I wanted to ask you about being South Asian and kind of having to grapple with figuring out your identity and your gender fluidity and learning more about yourself as you grew up. Like I grew up in a Persian household, so I know a little bit about how my culture can clash with some of my views and dealing with that sort of internal dialogue. But of course, being a straight cis woman, it's very different for me. So I'd love to hear your experience. And I know that's kind of a hard hitting question, so you don't have to like go into dirty details, but just what do you feel proud about your culture and like how do you stay true to that while also being comfortable in who you really are and your identity?
Yeah, I think the one thing that helped me to feel a lot more liberated is that none of my identities are meant to be clashing with themselves in the first place. Like they clash because of societal norms.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I'm just a human living like my life.
You are who you are. And
Right. Like I'm not hurting anybody. If anyone thinks that I'm hurting them, then that's their problem, not mine.
100, yeah.
that's a you problem. 100%.
Yeah. I just do what feels right to me, and like that's kind of just it. I take a part of like different identities of mine, whatever feels like right to me, and like I don't know, I just live my life, I guess. I think one thing that also I had to learn more about like my identity is just to decolonize my brain, because I know that South Asia and a lot of different cultures around the world, like queerness, being non-binary, and like the like gender fluidness and like the fluidity of sexuality, that exists in so many ancient civilizations and it has always existed in different cultures. But colonization has literally made us feel like that was barbaric. And there's this great infographic that I saw about how it's like rooted in racism and it's rooted in like white supremacy, that there needs to be a gender binary, and then we have to these roles. So learning about those things felt very freeing and felt very just validating, realizing like I'm supposed to be the way that I am. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's just like another form of you having to deconstruct these systematic oppression that like
absolutely.
And I think that's what's so great about social media is that you can go online and find an infographic like that, and that alone makes you feel less alone, that someone took the time to write all this out. What's going on in your head and in your heart isn't weird or crazy. There are clearly other people going through the exact same thing from all over the world.
History is just so whitewashed that, and heteronormatized, that like we are meant to feel like we're the weirdos, but like really we're not.
Do you follow Florence Given?
No, I don't think I do.
I think you would really fuck with her, but she is this bisexual goddess, and she has coined a term called heterifying, which is when something is so hetero that it's horrifying. And I think it just really pertains to a lot of things in society that we're brainwashed into thinking.
I mean, dude, Ava, remember when we were in Greece and like we went to all these amazing historic museums, but like all that shit that we learned, they were all gay. Like it was a very big part of their culture. And for some reason, we just cover it up. And even what you were saying, Nova, about like how it's kind of rooted in this idea of labels and racism in a way. Like I learned that in college too, in a gender class that I took, but you obviously don't have to go to college to learn this shit because there's amazing online resources. But yeah, the professor like, I'll never forget, she talked about that, how we as humans like to have things in boxes. If it's for our brains to process it easier, we like to put things into labels, and there's no reason or rhyme, like there's no
Just
rhyme
rip
or
the
reason
label
to why
off.
we do that. 100%. And like, people are always asking personal questions about, well, how does this work? Or how do you have sex as transgender or whatever? And it's like, it's none of your fucking business. Like, just people are
But
living their life.
it's $3.99.
Right? Also,
Totally.
Google that shit. If you have a question about something, Google is your friend. You don't need to
Somebody
go up
else
to
has
someone.
research.
Yeah, you don't need to go up to someone and say, "How do you have sex?" Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't
It's
happen to a straight
disrespectful.
couple.
Could you imagine if somebody was like, can you tell me, like, how did you have sex last night to me? But they do it all the time I don't understand it.
Like, they know what they're doing. They
Yeah.
just want to like visualize you doing it. It's like, it's
Mhm.
so fucking weird.
It is a fetishization in a way.
I was about to say they do it a lot in like the fat and plus size community too. They'll be like, "Oh, well, how does that work?" I'm sorry, I get on top.
Why not have
if he dies, he dies. Like, so I definitely relate to that. Transitioning a little bit, you just got signed to Titans models.
Hey.
Congratulations. I'm sure a lot of your followers are also aspiring models or creators. So could you talk a little bit about like the process? I know it was really hard for you to find the right agency, and what were you looking for?
So it was just hard for me to get signed, period. I am petite, curvy, and so I didn't really fit in those boxes. Like, there's just so many parts of like me physically and my identity wise that I feel like I just don't fit in, which also makes me want to like just break into the industry even more. But yeah, the process was just really hard to get signed at all because of my height, and on top of that, like being curvy. And I don't really see a lot of South Asian models. It wasn't until literally this past year where I've seen so many more South Asian models, and that makes me so happy. But yeah, it was just really hard for me to like get signed, but also a lot of these agencies, like, you have to realize, like, if they won't sign you um because of one little thing, whether it's your weight, whether it's your appearance or whatever, like, that agency is not even for you.
Exactly. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in the DMs the other day, because I worked at a modeling agency, and so I can say that they're looking for something specific. So it's not about you, it's about what they're looking for. And if their standards don't match you, that's on them for having shitty standards to begin with.
Right. Social media, like, has definitely like been like a weird part of me getting signed, and also just me seeing like other people getting signed as well. Like, if you have like a big following and obviously people like you, like, you have more of a chance of getting signed because you've showed that you can market yourself and stuff.
Oh,
like
they'll straight up ask at castings, how many followers do you have? And because I work in
Right.
casting, and they'll say, okay, now write that on the little card. And it's like, that should not matter though.
Which was very new to
shouldn't.
me because, like, I remember like 2 years ago when I went to New York Fashion Week casting. This is for New York Fashion Week, has to do with your walk. They asked how many followers you have, and I was just like, what does that have to do with my walk?
Yeah.
And it's
I never
because
understood
they'll put it
that.
into contracts that the model is required to do a certain post or to do this and that.
Right.
You see, you have 1,000 followers versus a girl who has 20,000 followers. The marketing incentive is to go with the 20,000 follower girl, even if their content isn't good or they're not like better.
Well,
it's stupid.
it is stupid. And in my experience working on, like, I do more like set work, so not necessarily like walks or anything, but working on set with a variety of models, the ones who have the followers and who claim it and like think that they're hot shit because of it, they're usually not as talented, because that gets to your head a little bit. And like, if you make that be the most important part of who you are as a talent, it's just like, it's backwards to me. Do you find though, Nova, like being getting signed, are you sometimes cast in like stereotypical roles for Asian models, or are you getting a diverse? Because I know nowadays it's like people are finally, hopefully, getting more aware of the fact that we need to have diversity and they don't really care as much. But do you still get some of that, like specifically looking for Asian model?
I see mostly like a lot of the times I'll see castings for white models and black models, and I almost never see them looking for Asian models unless it's like they need that token Asian model.
Yeah, or they'll be like, we
Right.
need skincare, so we'll do Asian. Like they have like specific
More
things that
commercial
they,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, which is like
Yikes.
really weird. But thankfully, I haven't like been tokenized.
Good.
Yay!
When I was looking for an agency, I just wanted them to like not be turned off by how vocal I am about certain things online. Because I know that can be like a huge thing with like models and stuff like that, whatever you put online, whatever you talk about. I wanted them to just appreciate how multidimensional I am, as well as like, for my body type. So for me, it was really just like literally it just goes back to authenticity, and I think like that says a lot. Like if you can make yourself and brand yourselves as someone who's just authentic in themselves, and like you're also like talented, I think that can go very far. I think it just really goes down to like what matters to you, because a lot of the times these agencies also want like activist types, which like I wouldn't make yourself an activist if you didn't feel passionate about something, but if you do feel passionate about any one issue, I would make it a point to like act on those like
Yeah, and social media is a tool. Like you should be using it to advocate for what you care about and what you're passionate
right.
about.
Right. It's so important to do that. And like for me, it was always important for me to like, it's not just about me. It's not just about like me being like the face of South Asia or whatever, anything like that. It was about like, me being a part of that movement. But also like I want to help create more jobs and more like of a network full of South Asian people in the industry. I want to bring people into it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, going back to Fashion Week, I remember you talking about them making you feel so othered when you were walking, and like just some of the things that you were told at castings, or that you didn't really think about yourself until you went into those castings, and how about like your body and stuff like that. Like are you still having those thoughts? Like how did that affect you, that process?
Oh yeah. When I went to my first ever fashion show, which was Brooklyn Fashion Week, I think around 2018 or something, I was so fucking excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm like walking my first fashion show. Like, I'm the shortest one here. And
Wait, how tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
That's crazy that's like short for fashion.
Bitch, I'm 6'1".
I know. It's just nuts because what's the average woman? 5'4", probably, right?
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah, it's like
ridiculous. The
around
height
5'6" or something.
the height
Okay.
standard is stupid because beauty comes in every size and shape, and every height deserves to be represented.
Truth.
Continue.
Yeah, and I was just sitting there, and one of the models was like, yeah, you would be considered plus size. And I was just like, excuse me? Like, because up until
Girl, what?
I thought I was skinny. So like the first thing I said was just like, well, that's fucked up, because like what about girls that are bigger than me? Like how would they feel about themselves seeing me being considered plus size? And like my whole like world was just like, what? Like question marks everywhere. I was just so confused because I really thought I was skinny. And now like honestly, I do struggle with like how I perceive myself, because there are days where I'm like, okay, like I look good, like I like how I look in this, like, and then there are other times where like I just have such bad like body dysmorphia, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like what do I look like really?
And it comes from them putting you into a box because they didn't know what to do with you. And you don't fit this super skinny straight size, you're automatically just bumped up to the next
Right.
normalized category, which is stupid in itself because it's such a big range. And like you're not gonna go go to a casting that's when someone calls for plus size models, you're not gonna get submitted for that.
Yeah, and I don't even go for plus size model castings because for me, I'm just like, well, I don't think I'm like that big and I wouldn't want to take
I was going to
like
say it could be insulting to an actual big girl who has
right,
to stand next to a much tinier person and say that they're
right,
modeling the same message. I don't know.
right, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like I'm in this weird in between in the industry. They definitely don't know what to do with me. Um, but yeah, I just also always felt uncomfortable taking up space because I want actual big girls to get their money because they don't get enough love and like, get that like spotlight as well because I just feel like there's no point in someone like my size taking up space. So I always try
Well,
to
you
be
can take up and make your own space.
exactly.
Exactly. It's just they shouldn't. Those I don't know who was the casting director or who sent that messaging to you, but fuck them first of all. And I'm so proud of you for doing the walk anyway. Like with that messaging in your head, like you still looked
Oh my God.
amazing. Like you were still so confident and
Thank
fierce.
you.
So
Yeah, that's like another part of like modeling. Like you have to like put up with like insecurities being thrown at you and then like having to like show up being very confident and stuff. Like you
Mhm.
really just have to like swallow all of that.
How has transitioning from being like a quote unquote Instagram model to being like a working signed model? Like, does it feel different?
Right. I for the longest time didn't even call myself a model because I was just like, oh well, I'm not signed, so like what am I doing here? I'm just modeling, but at some point I realized like if I want to be taken more seriously, I have to start calling myself like a model. And
Mhm.
so like I'm not sure how to like answer that question because Instagram modeling is literally just being pretty in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to real modeling, like you have to model to sell. You have
Mhm.
to sell clothes. You have to sell a beauty product,
I was gonna say you're more not accountable, but there's a lot of other people involved in producing whatever you're making.
Right. So, yeah, I think there comes a point where like I guess Instagram modeling is like more about the model itself, and then real modeling is more about the clothes and whatever they're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you're sort of at the discretion of, like you were saying, Ava, like of the photographer, of the makeup artist, of all these other people involved. Whereas not always with Instagram modeling, because there are some really large accounts out there who have a whole team of production team. But like when it's just you, you can manipulate your angles and
Mhm.
like in ways that that work. Whereas when you're in front of that camera and there's other people telling you what to do and how to move, like that takes a lot more control, I think, to really sell the product and not just be
And
like
not
this
being able to see
thing.
the images right away
Oh
or
my
like
God.
know what you look
Yeah.
like.
Well,
um,
I wanted to ask, how old were you when we're going way back, but you were talking about how you kind of started your social to just be yourself and make friends. And were you a teen at that point? Like, how old were
oh,
you
and
when
what
you?
was your first social platform?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like in middle school when I first made Facebook. That was like my first one.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
same.
I say I was on MySpace, my first social, but I should not have been on MySpace because
And
I was
we,
only like
yeah,
13.
one of my friends was on MySpace and she was telling me all about it. And then there was Facebook, and Facebook boomed and killed MySpace.
Hmm.
Yeah, you
Um,
were smart. You made the right move.
I was just like not accustomed to like the computer and the internet. So I was just like, okay, I guess this is what I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was around 13 and
Oh
then
my gosh.
I was like what 15 or 6, yeah, 15 14. Oh, how old was I?
No.
It's so crazy
I think
thinking
I
how
was
young we
15.
were, like on the internet
Yeah.
without
Dude.
rules. I mean, I don't know about you, but like my parents didn't moderate my shit. Like
Well,
they
I wasn't
Right,
even
like they advised, but
I wasn't even allowed to watch YouTube.
oh shit.
oh my gosh. So, okay, now I have two
YouTube had some
questions
crazy
then.
shit on it though. So shout out to your
It
parents.
really did. If you could go back to your teen self, two questions. What were you wearing and what would you want to tell yourself?
A lot of plaid. Unfortunately, it should have been the first indication that I was bisexual.
Can I ask what the second indication was?
Well, okay, so it was flannel, not preppy.
Gotcha.
Plaid, so tragic. But my second indication, okay, I feel like this is a weird one, but I think it's because like I don't know, like when I was in the locker rooms, like changing in front of other girls, like I would not look up. I was just like, oh, mind
Oh,
their
yeah.
privacy, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But then like other girls would check me out and they would be like, oh my God, Nova, I see you got this, you got that, you got this going on. I was just like, what?
So uncomfortable.
Like, oh my, thank you.
I was like, trying to be respectful, and I feel like that should have been an indication. Like why? Like,
I feel like that's also an indication that you're respectful and
this-
not
True.
objectifying your fellow women in
Right.
the locker room.
But like the fact that I thought I could objectify them in the first place.
Oh, true, absolutely.
You know?
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Because there were definitely moments in the hallways where I saw a girl walking past me, and I was just like, don't look back. Don't look back.
Oh, that's so cute.
I was like, I know she got something going on there, but I'm not gonna.
Mind my business.
I love that. And so back to your teen self, what would you want to tell yourself, like based off of where you are now?
Oh, I would tell them to be a little bit more narcissistic. I could have been an influencer.
My biggest flaw is that I don't like myself enough and that I doubt myself too much. And I think a lot of women have that same problem. Men, they don't give a fuck. That's what people want.
I saw a meme that was going around the other day, and it was like, nobody gives a shit with like a sad face, and then it was like, or nobody gives a shit, and it was like this person just being so happy, like nobody gives a fuck, like do whatever you want. If they like it, they
That's
like it. If they don't,
actually the greatest thing. That's like one of those things about New York that I love. Like you could just be sobbing on the train and it's like nobody cares,
right? Because we've all done it, and like it's a rite of passage to cry on the subway train. Like,
True.
I love it. You're from Queens, right? Born and raised.
Yeah.
Born and raised. How is that environment being queer? Like, are you out in your community?
Yeah, I like not in like my family or anything like that, except at this point, like during quarantine when I've talked about being queer so much, like I'm sure they know.
The walls aren't that thick.
Don't talk about it. Yeah, we just don't talk about it. But as far as like my age group and like younger and stuff, everyone knows. Like it's not something that I hide. It's just something that I don't put out there when it comes to like older people.
Right. You got to protect your own safety and your own mental health first.
Too much to explain. Like I try to explain like bisexuality to my dad, and my dad took it very well. But when I explained it to him, he was just like, but if you like the girl, the boy will be mad. If you like the boy, the girl will be mad.
You're like, you just, no, you don't get it.
So I was just like, you know what? I'm just glad that you accept me. We'll explain this a different day.
Yep. And that's love, man. Like at the end of the day, he still loves you. Yeah. And that's what's important.
And there are a lot of people who have that same experience as you. Like, I mean, I know somebody in my personal life who is out in some ways and not in others. And like the same way you are with certain family members, it's just like,
right.
I don't know. I don't want to call it a respect thing because it's like, well, they should respect you back. But it's this difficult, identity piece, trying to be somebody that your parents or grandparents or whomever think that you are. And it's a slow process, but you'll get there. And the only one putting pressure is you. Like, there's no need to, I don't know. I think with online personas, we think we have to be, like you were saying earlier, this certain type of queer or certain type of South Asian or whatever. And like you said, you're just human. Like, just living your life. It's the
Right.
human dilemma,
Yeah.
man. We're existing.
We
Right.
talked a little bit about on our phone call last week about your audience on social media and how you have a lot of South Asian followers, but
Yeah.
it's actually really a mix, and that you don't really always realize like how you might be explaining your culture or presenting your culture and how it might be perceived by like someone like me who's white and has no idea about certain things. How do you navigate that, like knowing your audience and stuff like that?
I don't know if I really like cater to my audience as much as I cater to myself, which is like, I guess the biggest theme.
I think that's key.
Mhm.
I think that can be. I think that's like the biggest theme of this whole podcast. Because I don't really analyze my audience as much anymore. But it is really important to also, like, if you do care about growing your following, if you do care about getting people to like stay and being able to help people like to understand that. And thankfully, like when I talk to other people about my social media, like it's very interesting for me to hear how they perceive me, because um I don't really put things out there to be perceived as much as I do to tell my story. So there's that, but it's really interesting lately that I am seeing like more of a mix of people like following me, whether it's for creative purposes, whether it's for like the stories I tell, or just like plain old representation, or because they think my ass is fat,
Well, I'll tell you personally, it's all of the above for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But it's just really nice. Like, it's just nice to like form a little community. And that's what I care the most about.
Mhm.
I feel like if I can be like a safe space for someone, even if that's like not what I was really going for, like that's awesome, because social media is such a big part of our lives now. And what we consume is going to affect how you feel throughout the day. So if someone can
Yeah.
get something positive out of seeing my content or anything that I talk about, that just makes me happy, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
all there is to it.
Were there people in the media or even on social media that you looked up to when you were growing up, and you kind of try to emanate some of that?
Right. No, actually, because like I said, when I was growing up, influencer culture wasn't that big.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really follow people because of their following, or follow people because of this or that. There are a few models, like this plus size model, Deanna. My name is Deanna.
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
I love her. I think we used to be mutuals at some point, which is crazy.
She got popping off of Tumblr. She had that
Oh.
one Tumblr picture of her like with a cigarette in her mouth and her hair is blowing. And I remember following that, and then she got signed or something, and then she like blew up or something.
I
don't know.
miss Tumblr.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, that's so crazy, because I used to be mutuals with her, and then she blew up, and like I didn't care so much about like who was on social media as much as I was about like just connecting to people. And then I saw her blow up, and I was just like, oh my god, is that girl? Like,
And also like New York it makes you feel like, well, if that girl from New York can do it, like so can I. And
right,
and she also was someone who didn't fit the stereotypical model
right.
type. And she's not that tall either, if I'm
Oh,
not.
I don't know
I don't think
her.
she's that tall either. Yeah, but she's curvy and she's
Yeah.
beautiful.
But like that's like one of the only people that like I knew of. But like I didn't know she was a model. I didn't know anything. Like I was just so far removed from like, I guess, clout culture. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that she was a clout chaser or whatever, she's awesome. But like, yeah, that's someone when I look back and I'm like, oh,
It's not like you followed them being like, I'm gonna get in with them and they're gonna help my following grow. It's like, no,
oh
you
yeah,
followed them because they inspired you in some way or you like
I
them.
was just, oh my god, they seem so cool. They seem so sweet, and like
Mhm.
we were mutuals back in the day. And oh, that was on my old account. My old account.
What was your
Old
old account?
account.
My old account was Blow My Cockiness.
Oh my Lord. I love
That's
it.
so on brand.
Is that not a Rihanna lyric?
Yeah, it's suck my cockiness.
Yeah, okay.
I just changed it to blow my cockiness.
I love it.
Everyone who used to follow me on that account just knew that I was like crazy, and like now I'm like SpaceordNova, and it's just like plays into my god complex just a little bit.
You are SpaceLordNova. There's no
Right,
there's no separation.
I love that.
I love that you get called Space Lord in real life.
It's so hot to me.
Where did that come from, that name?
Well, my name is actually Nova. It's not short for anything.
Which is beautiful, by the way.
Xenon could never.
Like,
yeah, I loved my name. I loved my name. And I always felt like I had to live up to my name and be someone who's fitting for my name, you know? I loved my name so much. I thought it was so fucking cool. Everyone else also was just like, oh my god, is that short for something? I was like, no, I'm Nova. But like Sugar Nova, or no, not Sugar Nova, what the hell?
That's your OnlyFans name, right? I'm just kidding.
Oh.
see?
What's that? Novocaine and like Supernova, like those are so like used up and so like just cliche. So I think a friend of mine was just like going through, like, I had weird friends. I was going through like a phase where he was just like, I'm gonna create my own religion. I'm gonna make the religion where I'm the god and this is my name, whatever. And then he gave me the name SpaceLordNova, and I was just like, Space Lord. And then ever since that, then like it played into my god complex and stuff like that. Like
Perfectly.
I was like, yes, I am SpaceLordNova, and like
I am the Space Lord.
yeah, I think it's just so like original, and I think it's so like me, and like no one else on any handle can say that they're SpaceLordNova besides me. And so I feel like, yeah,
it's very fitting.
Mhm. What are you listening to and watching during quarantine?
What am I listening to?
Give us new music. Mostly me. I need new music.
I don't really listen to like new music like that. Okay, I recently got into Rina Sawayama.
Ooh,
I
I'm
love her.
intrigued.
Listen to XS, and listen to Comme des Garçons. Those are like
All right.
two of my and Esther's like favorite songs. What else have I been listening to? I literally like I made this playlist for my girlfriend, and that's what I listen to. Like,
Aw, mixtapes.
yeah. And I've been listening to Yuna.
I love Yuna.
She follows me now, which is mad random. Mad.
Bows
awesome.
down to Nova. The fuck?
It was like the weirdest, most randomest thing. She like followed me, and I was just like,
What?
I mean, like I said, she's here for the fat ass. I'm just kidding.
I hope so. She can have peace.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
well,
Thank
I feel
you
like we did
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Honored
This was
first
so
guest.
fun. We were nervous, so thank you for putting
Yes.
us at ease with your wonderful conversation.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm so glad that we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Before we go, so my mom is currently looking for a B positive blood type kidney. She needs it urgently, and we're also trying to raise about 60 grand for her kidney transplant surgery. So we will be attaching my mom's GoFundMe, and if you know anyone who can donate a kidney, even if it's not B plus, there's a system where if anyone's up to donating a kidney, I might be able to get a B plus kidney from somewhere else. So if anyone is willing to donate a kidney for my mother, please email me at aftabnova@gmail.com. It's AF as in Frank, TABNOVA@gmail.com.
Yeah. And we will be linking all of this information in our post about you.
Yeah.
we wish you all the luck with that. And any sharing and donating that you can about this would greatly help.
Yeah, even if you can't donate, I feel like sharing it with your followers, it's just get that spread around so that more people see it and may be willing to spare a few dollars.
Post it on celebrities' threads, do whatever.
Oh, yeah. I've been doing that.
Yeah, same. Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you have a lovely week.
Yes.
Guys.
All right. Bye, Nova.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Thank you for listening to Meet My Mutual. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and be sure to tell your friends about us. We welcome you to connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Meet My Mutual. Thank you so much for the support. We'll see you next time on Meet My Mutual.